Hi YouTube, it's Growing in OKC. My name is Ish, and I'm here in the Oklahoma City Community Garden. And today I wanted to take you through a this area is just amazing. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. And I'm amazed that here in Oklahoma, we actually have things like this that encourage children to grow and teaches them about how to grow certain things. And it's just amazing. So I'm going to take you around the garden here and show you what they've got here in order to educate our youth and our future on how to garden. So before I take you into the garden, I want to give you kind of a panoramic shot of the whole garden area so that you can kind of see the general outlay of the gardens, because I think that's just as important as the individual things that are going on here as well. So first, we're standing inside of a covered pavilion, which is great. And then you can see there's a grassy area for the kids to play and parents to sit. A little jungle gym area over there, which has giant pumpkin leaves, I believe is what they're supposed to represent. And then the garden is raised beds. In the background there's a kind of a pole bean structure for pole beans to go up. More raised beds here in the foreground. And then a composting area here close up. And then some corn and other things here on the other side of the patio. Okay, so I'm going to take you around individually and show you some of the things that they've got going on and show you the signs that teach children how to garden for themselves. Urban building. You know, having things like this inside the heart of your city encourages birds and stuff to come in, and they're natural pest fighters, and they help aquatic habitats and stuff like that and keep the area clean. So having areas such as this with a lot of different varieties encourages animals. Holy crap, who would have thought animals inside of a city to come in? So here we have a great example of how you can use trellising in your garden. And one of the things that I find unique about this specific trellis is that there's actually a couple of varieties here used so that growing up a single trellis system. And this is great because whatever this, it's some sort of squash, I would guess maybe it's some sort of winter squash, because I see a few flowers but nothing producing any of the fruit yet. But they're using it to shade out some things that ordinarily would not grow in this really hot heat here in Oklahoma. So, for example, we've got these huge leaves, and they provide shade for some loose leaf style romaine lettuce. And here you can see, I mean, it's even so hot, but you can see they've put a little placard down here letting people know that there's lettuce here. And if we look in, I mean, this stuff is just so thick. There are smaller leaves in here which are probably some sort of green bean or pea, and I've tried to find some of the fruit so that I could try it and eat it, but I haven't been able to. So these big leaves are providing a nice exterior, a nice shaded area for other things. And then you've got underneath here, again continuing with the theme of the three sisters, you've got some green squash or zucchini, and this one is actually producing fruit. There it is, right there. See all those zucchinis? There's at least 3 or 4 zucchinis, and they look absolutely healthy. No problems with them whatsoever. I'm probably gonna pick 1 or 2 of those and take them home with me and cook them up tonight. And we have some herbs here. And really, I mean, this is just an herb bed. But what I really wanted to show you all is that they've got not only a blend of the beautiful mixed in with their greens, which encourages insect growth and encourages people to spend more time out here, but they've got some really creative uses for like these broken pots. You can see here's a broken terracotta pot and it just says sage on it, letting you know that you have sage right here, because educating people on what they find is just as important as growing it. And then we've got some bell pepper. I think these are bell. They look too big to be anything else. Oh yeah, look at the size of this pepper. Oh wow. That is a massive, massive bell pepper growing right here. That's one of the things I really like. And you've got all this stuff just growing here, and it's great for people can just come and pick it and kids can eat it without any worries. Because it's important for young people to know and understand where the food comes from. I mean, really, this is what it's all about. Is that people need to understand that food does not come from Whack Arnold's or Wham-Lart. Instead, food comes from areas like this, where it's outside, it's growing on vines. Here behind me are some tomato plants. And I remember, and I'll rightfully admit, when I was a little kid, I was shocked to find out that ketchup was tomato. And I like tomato and I like ketchup and it was fine with me, but I know that there are little kids out there who are like, oh, gross, tomatoes are gross. Squirt all this ketchup onto my hamburger and then eat it up. So teaching our youth that food is actually made and grown, or rather food is grown somewhere and not just made by a fast food restaurant, is really important to our health. Here in the United States, we have one of the highest levels of obesity, and it's no wonder because there are so many fast food restaurants and eating establishments in our country, and people don't make their food anymore. And not only do they not make their own food, but even worse, they don't grow their own food. And so there's a disconnect between what we consume and where we get it. And there are just a host of problems that come from this. And you know, you could read some like Wendell Berry and stuff like that, and in order to really appreciate the philosophy of it all. But even if you don't want to get into the philosophical problems of not understanding where your food comes from, and even if you don't want to get into the environmental problems of shipping foods thousands of miles away and doing mass productions of agriculture, even if those two things don't concern you, what should concern you is that in a situation where we're required to provide for ourselves, there will be a mass starvation because we are unfamiliar with the process of having to take care of ourselves. And so that should be, you know, one of the primary reasons as well for why people should know how to grow their own food and harvest their own food. There are also signs, little information blurbs such as these, which show the kids what things look like, such as sugar, before it ends up in their cereals or, you know, other things. This is actual sugar cane here, which is cool. I don't think I've ever seen sugar either. So even this isn't just educational for children, this is also educational for me. Backyard composting. Hey, it's only natural. Okay, so here is one of the things that I really like about this community garden is that there are signs such as these that talk about how to compost, why we should compost, etc. And then there's a giant compost bin here, and this not only has the educational function of teaching people how to compost their own scraps, but it's also got a much more utilitarian function, which is that it acts as a composting bin for this giant gardening area. And so not only is it a blend of functional, but it's also educational. And so that's really important that we teach the children how to compost, because all these materials can then be put back into the garden and used for next year's crop generation. Okay. So that's going to be it for the tour of the gardens here in downtown Oklahoma City. I really encourage you all, if you ever get the chance to come to Oklahoma City, just come and check this little garden out. It's really quite beautiful here and very relaxing. Even on a hot day like it is today, it's 105 degrees out or so, but in this shaded area it's very nice. It's probably, 10 degrees cooler. And so just come, bring your kids to the garden. Even if you don't live in Oklahoma City and you just live in an area with your own garden, take them to that one, take them to that community garden, because not only is it a great place to play, but it teaches kids about gardening and growing and just gets them involved kind of on a subversive, subliminal level. And you will be planting the seeds of sustainable living and green living by taking your kids to areas like this, where they can learn how to grow and know what to pick. Kind of one last parting thing. I've picked all my foods here, and I'll show you those in a second. Without getting too much into philosophy and the current political environment and stuff like that, because that's not really what this channel's about. An interesting thing just occurred to me, and I wanted to share it with you all because I think it drives home a point. While I was here picking things out of the garden, I'll show you what I picked. Tons of squash, some okra, a couple of bell peppers, and 3 zucchinis. While picking these things, a gentleman approached me and asked me if I could spare some change. And I don't have any money on me, and I told him as much, but I did tell him I was willing to pick him some stuff because he said he was just hungry. And I said, I've got all this stuff here that I've picked. You can have whatever I pick. And a lot of this stuff is good raw. You can eat the zucchini and the squash and the bell pepper raw. And he declined my offer, but it's unfortunate that we have food readily available, and I think this is the problem with a large swath of society, not just people who are asking for change. A large problem with society is that we just don't eat that stuff. And it's really unfortunate that you can have resources available to you, such as a community garden. And don't think I'm just talking about the homeless here, because if you don't have a garden, I'm also talking to you. The resource is available to you to grow your own stuff and save money and ensure that you have a healthier, more nutritious, more rich lifestyle. And people willfully neglect those things. And so I just wanted to impart that message to you all, and chances are good that if you're watching this channel, you are not one of those people who doesn't grow your own food. But if you are watching this and you don't grow your own food, I highly encourage you to. There are lots of ways that even if you don't eat that stuff, you can give back to food banks and stuff for people who are willing to eat this type of food and who are willing to take the steps to eat good, healthy food when they have other alternatives. So build your own garden, build your own raised beds, donate it if you have excess to community centers and food banks, or just eat it yourself. But that's kind of my final parting advice for you all. So good luck, again, growing in OKC or wherever you're at in the country.